Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover things from, all different type of sports, where we give you, classic debates, and we give you a perspective on things and how we see them in the sports world. And in today's episode, the topic is, or the question is rather, does Kawhi Leonard need to improve his leadership for the Clippers to win the championship next season? So that's the topic I want to get into in today's video. But before we get into that, I want you guys to please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified when we drop our content. And also don't forget to check out this episode on the Dreamerspro Podcast, which is linked in the description below. So go ahead and make sure you check that out. With that being said, let's just get straight into the content. So this is a pretty interesting topic for me for a number of reasons. Why? As we all know, the NBA season is still underway. I mean, the NBA finals are underway, and this all depends on when you guys are going to see this video. And, some things have been happening. Some offseason moves have been happening. As you know, the Clippers they parted ways, let's say, with Doc Rivers, and they're now currently looking for a new head coach. Doc Rivers, who had been with the Clippers for, I believe, 6 seasons or so, just didn't seem to cut the butter. And this season, there was a lot of expectations on that team to win an NBA championship, not just make it to the finals, but actually win the NBA championship. And they weren't able to come away with the title, and that upset a lot of people. And I'm sure, a lot of the management for the Clippers organization, and they decided that they wanted to move in a different direction away from Doc Rivers. Now, it's fair to say a lot of Clippers fans and followers have been saying all throughout the regular season that they don't believe that Doc Rivers was the right guy. And ever since the Clippers lost, they've been passing blame all over the place. Now, Doc Rivers has moved on. He just recently got a job with the Philadelphia 76ers. So that was pretty interesting, but he has a very stellar reputation all throughout the league, not just as a great coach, but also as a great recruiter and a great leader. So he was able to bounce back pretty quickly and sign a 5-year deal. So I guess that's how the NBA works. You lose a job, and within a week you have another job that's going to be, you have another 5-year contract job. So that's how it works in the NBA. Now, looking at the Clippers, there's still questions that have been unanswered as far as who's going to be their next head coach. What's the next season going to look like? Are they going to try to move some of their players? So there's so many of these different things, and I think one of the overarching narratives that we've heard over the past few weeks since they lost was, Kawhi Leonard sort of a lot of people questioning his leadership or lack thereof with this particular team. And it made me want to go a little bit deeper and really sort of address this from a holistic standpoint. Let's look at this from a macro level, not just look at it from what happened in the playoffs within a 3-4 week time span. Let's look at it maybe from a year or two. And it made me begin to ask the question, is Kawhi Leonard as bad as a leader as some people say he is? And after spending some time doing some research and really thinking on it, I think that he is being mischaracterized as a leader. And for a lot of people to say that he's not a great leader, I think is wrong. And even me in the past, I think I've sort of jumped the gun and reacted to what people have been saying and things that have been happening and sort of drew some quick conclusions, which is wrong. And I shouldn't have done that. Now, looking at Kawhi Leonard, for us to say he's a bad leader, we have to look at him historically, okay? Yes, he was playing with the Spurs, and the Spurs already have what you call a leadership structure. Let's say sort of like a pyramid scheme. You have the coach, and then you have, maybe other players, and I think they even go by seniority, players that have been there longer, so they have more of a voice, like the Manus, the Tim Duncans, the Tony Parkers, and then it trickles down, that way. So there's kind of that type of structure with the San Antonio Spurs, which was already established before Kawhi Leonard got there. So what he needed to do was just sort of fit into a slot, so to speak. But when he moved on to play with the Toronto Raptors, it was the first time you saw him sort of helm a team, an organization, and sort of spearhead that program and what they were trying to do. Now, last year, we did some videos covering the Toronto Raptors and the run that Kawhi Leonard and these guys went on. And one of the reasons why I said then that I believed that the Toronto Raptors were going to win the NBA title was because of Kawhi Leonard's leadership. Now, before some of you guys jump through your phones or your keyboards or however you're watching this video, let me explain. All right. Now, What we noticed about the Toronto Raptors prior to them winning, prior to them acquiring Kawhi, was this. They were able to consistently get very good regular season records. We know that. We've seen that time and time again. However, what would happen was this. They would get into the playoffs and a serious moment of adversity would hit, and all of a sudden they would begin to implode, right? Things would start falling apart, and they would usually get knocked out of the playoffs either by a LeBron or something else, right? That's usually what would happen. However, what I noticed about Kawhi was this. Kawhi, yes, he's a quiet person, and some people may mistake that for maybe being nonchalant or being maybe indifferent. However, I think it's his way of leading. Kawhi is one of these people that has a very calming effect on his teammates, right? And I said that what would happen was, you guys can go back and look for the video. I can look for it and try to link it in the descriptions below somewhere. And I'll probably do that. I'll probably link it and we'll look for it and see where I said that, so it doesn't look like I'm just here saying this now where I said it over a year ago. What I noticed was that he had this ability, because he was always able to remain calm, it started to have a trickle effect on his teammates, right? Because if you look at your leader and your leader is always calm and he's always cool under pressure, when high leverage moments arise, you're most likely going to adopt that demeanor, that same type of way of being that's going to rub off on you. And we saw that time and time again in the playoffs, because if you look at that Toronto Raptors run, they had so many high leverage moments where the playoffs could have gone in many different directions. Number one, Game 7 against the Philadelphia 76ers, the turning point against the Milwaukee Bucks when they went down, and so they could have just capitulated and fallen apart. But Kawhi, because Kawhi always seemed calm, I believe that was going to be the effect he's going to have on his teammates. Similarly to what you would see with other players like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant's own thing was, because Kobe Bryant was such a nasty competitor, he sort of infused that into his teammates, and they all became very vicious competitors. And I think that was his effect. His effect was, calm the hell down, guys. Everything is going to be okay. But it's not just enough for me to say it. I'm going to show you. And because they saw that this guy seemed to be unfazed by what was happening around him, they started to sort of pick up that same demeanor. And that's why you saw people like Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry, who hadn't always been that way. He started to perform in high leverage moments. And I think that was his effect. However, I think it worked because of that team, the personnel that team had. If we look at the Toronto Raptors roster, then they had Kyle Lowry, as I said before, Marc Gasol, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, Serge Ibaka, Norman Powell, these type of guys. So maybe it worked for that nucleus of players, right? Maybe it worked, and it did, because Kawhi ended up performing extremely well for that team in the playoffs, averaging over 30 points, I think 7 or 8 rebounds. He led the playoffs in points, rebounds, and steals at the highest point totals in the history of the NBA playoffs. Not the highest, the third highest behind Michael Jordan and LeBron. So he had a fantastic run. But I think that's what worked for that team, right? Now, I think, however, his leadership approach needs to change with this current roster that he's playing with these teammates, because now he's playing with players like Paul George, Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams, Patrick Beverley, Marcus Morris, Ivica Zubac, Landry Shamet, Reggie Jackson, and others. And I think that this compilation of players have a completely different personality set when you combine all of them together. I think it's a completely different thing from those players of the Toronto Raptors. Those players seem to be a little bit less egotistical. They seem to understand the goal a little bit better. Whereas this Clippers team, these guys seem to be feeling themselves a lot more, right? They were walking around like they were champions, whereas the Toronto Raptors had this desperation about them to win this title because they know they'd fallen short so many different times. And secondly, they knew that they took a gamble on trading away DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi, and they wanted to see that pay off. Whereas the Los Angeles Clippers, I felt like as if we've already arrived, and they thought that teams were going to roll over. Where in the playoffs last year with the Toronto Raptors, that was a completely different thing. No one was really picking them. So I think that his leadership style needs to change with this team. Not that he's a bad leader. I don't think that Kawhi can get away with just showing up, being calm on the court, just going about his business. In high leverage moments, you see him perform, and that's it, right? I don't think that's going to work with this team. I think that what he needs to do with this team is a few things. Number one, I think it should start in training camp, right? I think he should take the approach that Michael Jordan took when he came out of retirement, wearing the number 45 on his jersey, came out of retirement, played half a season, played against the Orlando Magic in the first round against Penny Hardaway and Shaquille O'Neal, and they got beat. The story was 2 weeks after they got beat, Michael Jordan says, he said, as soon as they lost, he said, I want to see you guys in the gym. We're starting our training camp in 2 weeks. You guys have 2 weeks off and we're beginning again, because MJ took it personally. And I think that that's what Kawhi needs to communicate to these guys, that you guys need to take it personally. You can't have statements like Paul George saying, oh, no, we weren't expected to win. Nonsense. You were expected to win. You even felt like you were going to win. There's no way there was going to be that much hype around the team if they thought that, oh, the only expectation for this team was to make it to the finals. No, everyone knew that this team was championship or bust, at least for this season. So people saying things like, Paul George saying things like that cannot be said. I can imagine a scenario where these guys are maybe in a gym practicing. Paul George said, like, yo, man, what are you talking about we weren't expecting? You see, that's the reason we lost. Things like that, right? So I think he needs to make sure that these guys all take losing personal. Secondly, I think he needs to hold himself accountable. Kawhi was in a different scenario with the Toronto Raptors. He was coming off an injury, right? And this season, he wasn't coming off an injury. He was coming off a championship, right? I think what Kawhi needs to do is wipe away that championship like it never happened. Forget about it. It's gone. Act like as if it's gone. And in this league is, what have you done for me lately? You haven't won a championship. Like, it's gone. They need to walk into this new season knowing that he needs to hold himself accountable and he needs to hold his teammates accountable. If it means chewing out one of his teammates on practice, so be it. I saw a clip that was floating around the internet where he was, I think he passed Reggie Jackson the ball and Reggie Jackson made a knucklehead play. And he's like, I didn't pass you the ball for that, bleep, right? You say that more, get in people's face. Let people know that, hey, listen, man, you can't just be out here trying to look cute, trying to play cute, as Shaq says. So I think that it's not a matter of does he need to improve his leadership. I think what he needs to do is modify his way of leading, because now he is with a different team. So I know I spoke for a lot, but I just wanted to get these thoughts out there. So what I want to know from you guys is, do you agree with me? Do you think that Kawhi needs to sort of modify his way of leading this new group? Or do you think that it's not going to be enough for him? He's probably going to need a great coach to back him up. Or do you think he doesn't have what it takes to really lead a group by himself? What do you guys think? Please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro. Wishing you guys an amazing day. Peace.